You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Who is Godzilla? Well, if you've been living under a rock for the past, several decades, you're probably wondering that. And if that's the case, we're here to help. Because today on Systematic Geekology, we're going to be talking about the greatest lizard to ever live next to Reptar, who was inspired by Godzilla. Godzilla. Hey guys, welcome back to your favorite Christian geek podcast who's willing to go to any of the geek realms, whether it's these kaiju films, whether it's Marvel, DC, professional wrestling, anime, Disney, it's all here. And we love Jesus, and that's all okay. And if you're okay with that, then hey, I want to let you in on a little secret. Come in here. So we have this thing, it's called Patreon. You give us money and we give you more episodes. So just head on over, patreon.com/systematicgeekology. Tell someone I sent you there. I don't get any of the money, but just tell them I sent you. And we'll give you some extra content, okay? Sounds great. Hey, I'm one of your hosts for today's episode, Brandon Knight. I'm a seminary student. And recently, what have I been geeking out on? I've been watching Batman Beyond, which is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. If I was to sit here and rank out my top 5 favorite cartoons, hey guys, I just came up with a new episode. Top 5 favorite cartoons of all time. I think Batman Beyond would be right near the tippity top of that list.
All right. I am TJ Blackwell. I am another host. Do a few episodes here on Systematic Geekology. And I've really been geeking out on Elden Ring. I bet no one saw that coming if they've been listening to the show for the past month. It's just so good.
We just recorded an episode together with TJ yesterday. How many more hours have you put in since then?
Like 4. Nothing crazy.
Okay. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Some people came over, so
he slowed him down.
Yeah.
Darn friends.
I am Joe. I am a broadcaster, a podcaster, and recently I have been geeking out on The Witcher. Going through where we almost finished season 1, gonna jump right into season 2, and it's certainly a show. It's definitely interesting. We'll have a lot to talk about once that episode comes.
Nice. So again, we're here today to talk about the greatest lizard of them all, Godzilla. If you've been around geekology for a while, you know that there are corners. And when you look at the graphic and you see certain hosts are together, you know what you're getting yourself into. If you see that TJ and Will are on an episode together, most likely something sci-fi related. TJ and Kino, most likely an anime thing. Josh and myself, usually something Lord of the Rings. Joe and I, we have this very quirky, unique corner. It's pro wrestling, it's horror, it's 90s nostalgia love. And every once in a while, somebody like TJ comes over to our corner and says, hey guys, can I come over and hang out? I did not anticipate you to want to come hang out here in the Godzilla corner. This reminds me, Joe, of back when Will wanted in on the Ultraman episode. So
that
TJ,
surprised me too.
That surprised you too. Yeah, that came from nowhere. But TJ, why don't you go first? Why do you appreciate Godzilla? Let's just start there. Why do we love Godzilla so much?
Well, I, like many others, as a young boy, loved dinosaurs. And then I saw Godzilla, who is, to a kid, basically just a giant, awesome dinosaur. So, since then, been pretty easy. I love everything about most Godzilla iterations. Most. But he's awesome. Giant lizard, sometimes nuclear fire, most of the time. Usually not, or one time, not. It's just cool. The defender of Earth. It's just awesome. I can't, base instincts. Cool lizard.
Cool. This is like childhood. What do you like? Dinosaurs. What would make a dinosaur even cooler? Shooting nuclear fire out of its mouth. That's what would make it cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, how about you? How'd you get?
Yeah,
into
I got to
Godzilla?
second a lot of that. You have small boys. What are they into? They're into dinosaurs. I wasn't necessarily really into dinosaurs. It was more about there being a giant fire breathing dragon looking thing. That was more of the connection point, where it's dragons rather than dinosaurs per se. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because as a kid, it was that fire breathing dragon aspect of it and all of that. But growing up and as I got older, I have an appreciation for the era of Godzilla where you can see the strings. You can see the fact that it is a giant model just being moved around, and the appreciation for the schlock and B movie of it all. If you look hard enough, sure, there are some iterations of Godzilla that are more polished and a lot of people would find cooler and all of that kind of stuff, but I think that there's a lot of different aspects of Godzilla to be celebrated.
For sure. There's so many different eras of Godzilla, and all of them have their perks. Even the strings and the guys in rubber suits doing basic judo moves on each other. Those are the best ones of them all. For me, again, we're all kind of coming from this era of Jurassic Park when dinosaurs were really cool. And I know, TJ, you're younger than both of us, but we were all kind of around for Godzilla 2000. That was the one with Matthew Broderick and Hank Azaria. Hank Azaria's in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can remember there was a mall down the road from me growing up. They had a toy store inside of it, and I would go in there, and they had a cardboard cutout of Godzilla, but they had it constructed so that way it looked like his feet were coming through the roof, like Godzilla was dropping into the toy store. That's my childhood. I have that childhood memory for whatever reason permanently ingrained in my memory. Godzilla has made such a lasting impact, and just dinosaur media in general. To this day, they're still making Jurassic Park. There's a Jurassic World movie coming out in June this year, I believe. We love dinosaurs, and we love watching dinosaurs try to kill us for some reason. We really like this idea. Let's go back to the beginning. Joe, I feel like pivoting to you might be a good point on this one. Godzilla at the beginning, black and white. What is the origin of Godzilla?
Well, Godzilla is in so many different respects a representation piece, and that representation has changed throughout the eras and things like that. But you're talking 1954. And you're talking about the beginning of all of the most iconic things, and it was the first one it was the first iteration where he was not the good guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
He was evil,
right? And so it's this idea of, with everything that happened in Japan and the nuclear fallout and all of those kinds of things, that you see the implication is jumping off of the page, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you see the full context of what that version of Godzilla is. So, while it's campy and it's ridiculous and all of that kind of stuff, it is laying the groundwork for what the finer points that have been adapted throughout the different iterations as Godzilla has made that transition from being a bad guy to a good guy.
It's true. TJ, would you like to walk us through this transition at all? We start off with this bad guy. So what changes? How do we go from Godzilla, the evil villain, to Godzilla, the hero, the defender of the earth?
Right. I think it was after they released Godzilla, the first one, they kind of realized, like, hey, people love this. What do? Add more monsters.
True.
Add more monsters. And we're going to watch them fight Godzilla. And of course, you want Godzilla to stay in the movies. So it just makes sense for us to align with Godzilla, the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that kind of, I want to say it's kind of gradual to where nowadays he's just full on defender of Earth, not really in question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just what Godzilla does. And it's just kind of gradually, you know, he is a giant evil lizard here to destroy us all, to, hey, he's going to kill this other giant evil lizard for us. That's cool. We're still not friends with him, but that's cool. And it's just kind of, you know, more and more, especially in the cartoon, they were like full on, like, Godzilla has a rank. Like, he's part of us.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't think I have seen all 36 Godzilla movies. Definitely not in order.
Can we pause and just let that soak in for a second? All 36 Godzilla films. We like to make fun of how many Halloween films there are. There is 36 Godzilla films that are all somehow loosely connected to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this gradual turn, right?
Yeah. You know, it is kind of, I would say it's a little quick at first, because it is in the second or third movie where it's like Godzilla's the anti-hero now. He's not just evil.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's get closer and closer gradually. Mm-hmm. At least humans and Godzilla do.
Okay. Joe, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's important to note that the original Godzilla was actually killed in the movie by the oxygen destroyer, I think they called it.
I think so.
Basically, plot device number 5, to kill the to kill the thing. But you know, so when the Showa era of Godzilla began, the idea was that it was the existence of another Godzilla. And so that was how they kind of, I guess, justified this turn that they wanted to make. Because like TJ said, you know, it's humans are not new. When they find a money-making proposition, they will milk it for every single cent that they possibly can. And if the people are with the if people are with the monster, then obligatory pro wrestling reference for whenever Brandon and I are on the show, then of course they're going to turn him face. They're not going to keep him a heel. You know what I mean? So they've got, you know, you see this progression and like TJ said, it's a perfect built-in thing, right? Because what do we like besides dinosaurs? Dinosaurs fighting other dinosaurs. We like big things going bam, bam, bam. We were all 5-year-old boys at one point in time. And so when you have these movies, it's ripe for that, to be able to throw in another monster. And a lot of times you're talking about repurposed stuff from other kaiju properties or other Japanese properties that, for the eagle-eyed observer that's really well versed in Japanese media, especially older Japanese media, you'll see that some of these concepts were either reused in Godzilla, or the Godzilla property was reused in things like Ultraman and different tokusatsu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's dig into this. Oh no, go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to talk about the sheer number of Godzilla villains. I don't think I could name even half of them. Really, there's no way.
And that's actually the direction I wanted to take this. Is let's dig into some of these additional kaiju monsters, because there are a ton. We're not going to get through all of them, but there are a few. To some degree, for those of you who are truly like unfamiliar with Godzilla media, to some degree, this is Japanese culture version of the Universal monster films from way back in the day, in that there were a number of different characters And at times, they were all brought together to varying degrees, all in the same film to battle it out or to work together or to whatever. So there are a couple that could be considered household names in this category. Ultraman is one of them. Godzilla crossed over onto Ultraman way back in the day. Who are some of these other like household, everyone should know this kaiju monster?
Probably Ghidorah.
Okay.
Yeah, King Ghidorah is probably the one that I would reach for. Maybe Mothra, Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. King Kong. You could count him. You know, not Japanese, but...
True. King Kong has definitely, especially now in the... Is it Warner Brothers who are making these newer ones? I think it's Warner Brothers who's doing they have made King Kong like a major character in this universe that they're building now with Godzilla versus Kong. Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla is as campy as it gets. Like that is just plain 70s silliness there. We've run out of monsters. All right, make him a robot.
Yep. Oh, Legendary Studios is doing
Legendary Studios. That's who it is.
No.
Legendary Studios.
But I love the whole Mechagodzilla thing. I was extremely hyped when Mechagodzilla showed up in Kong versus Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. Because I knew it was going to happen. And it was completely worth going and seeing anyway. Just to hear the roar in a theater, I'll go watch the worst movie on the planet if it has Godzilla's roar in a theater. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, Josh, we're going to need the Godzilla roar just like peppered in throughout this episode. Thank you.
Yeah, headphone warning.
Right.
Yeah, for
For sure. Is there any of these movies throughout the 36 run that you would say, hey, you should go watch this one or watch these couple of films, and why?
Final Wars. I love it. It is kaiju duking it out. It gets a little space invadery. And you get to watch Godzilla shove a tree down another kaiju's throat. Extremely entertaining. And it looks goofy. It looks bad. And it's fantastic. And he plays soccer with one of them, like he kicks one of them into a mountain. It's so good.
If you can't tell, this is worth pausing. There is a whole demographic that TikTok likes to make fun of called film bros. And those are the guys who will only watch certain films because they are XYZ. These are the guys who love Quentin Tarantino, who want to be Brad Pitt's character in Fight Club. So when you start talking about this type of films, where we are three grown men who are like, yeah, we like watching dinosaurs smack each other. Like, that's all that this is. There is some heavier stuff in that original Godzilla film, for sure. And there is times where the whole Defender of the Earth type of stuff comes up. For the most part, we are here to hear Godzilla scream really loud and shove a tree down someone's throat. Like, that is what we're here for. We don't want anything else. Mm-hmm. It reminds me, TJ, we did this episode recently on Dying Light 2. Sometimes we just want to see zombies get killed. It doesn't have to be a good story. Just want to watch a little carnage every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. And I would say also Godzilla Earth, the animated movies that are on Netflix, hugely underrated. I love them.
I have not seen those.
Underrated. Yeah, they're great. There's 3 of them. They're awesome. They're so cool. And Godzilla is literally the biggest Godzilla ever. It is great. And he's very, very powerful.
Cool. I'll have to go check those out. I haven't seen those yet.
Joe,
how about you? If you were to refer people to go check out certain Godzilla films, which ones would they be?
I would have to say that there's a soft spot in my heart for the original King Kong versus Godzilla from '63. It's one of those movies that just is just two giant monsters slapping 7 shades of nonsense out of each other. Just that's really what it is. You know what I mean? And along those same lines, Destroy All Monsters is another one that is just giant crossover. There's all kinds of chaos and nonsense and kaiju battles and all of that kind of stuff happening. And yes, I do want to circle back to something that you said, that these different eras, all the first one kind of drips that nuclear expression sort of representation to it, but there are different messages across the different eras of Godzilla. The over reliance on acts of war down to the power of the earth and all of these different things. And so to people, yes, these all do have a greater meaning or a subtext to them or something along those lines. But there is a layer of just going to watch a movie and shutting your brain off and watching a big reptile fight a giant gorilla and just have a good time doing it,
Yeah.
The new Godzilla Kong is also very good.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's awesome. King Kong has an axe.
I do like these legendary films that are coming out. I don't know if they're still doing them or if they were just trying to get to Godzilla versus Kong, because for the most part everything has to have a cinematic universe now. So I don't know, maybe there's more coming, but those are very good. And that's where you get a little bit more. Godzilla in his evolution reminds me a lot on the DC end of things of Swamp Thing. This character who's kind of like I'm here for the earth. I'm here because I was here before you and I'm taking care of the earth. Just kind of stay out of my way and leave me alone. I like the Swamp Thing character. And to some degree, that's what we see a lot in the Godzilla films of this, this was mine. Then you all showed up. Then you nuked each other. And now I'm really pissed about it. And that's the summary of what happens and all the reasons why all these different monsters show up along the way is that we have invaded their territory. We've invaded their space. And Godzilla is here to take care of his home. The horror movie historian in me would have to say you need to watch the original. If you've never seen the original, especially the one that they reshot for America, where they inserted Raymond Burr from Perry Mason is added in as a character. And it's just like these random scenes and kind of bad Photoshop of just like trying to add him into throughout the film. So that way there's an American in it, basically. That's how they pitched it. Let's just put an American. Yeah.
What a grab. Perry Mason.
Yep. Yeah.
That'll make people go watch Godzilla.
That's what brings the nerds to the yard. Let's throw Perry Mason in it. But yeah, if you've never seen that one, it's a classic. It's a classic of horror films. You got to check that one out too. Also really enjoy Son of Godzilla, because that's the silliness at its ultimate highest is when they give Godzilla a child.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me that we can point to all of the many missteps that America has had with the Godzilla franchise. They literally, so they kill off Godzilla in Japan. America gets they strike an agreement for America to be able to make a Godzilla. And then that basically spawns Japan making another Godzilla and starting the Millennium era of Godzilla, and specifically distancing itself from the dumpster fire that was the American Godzilla and just totally distancing from all of that. And it's so interesting to me that you look at these different American adaptations until it wasn't until Legendary stepped in and started making these movies that they just tried to make too much sense out of it, or tried to throw too many, story beats into it and things like that, and just wouldn't just keep it a bunch of kaiju just beating the tar out of each other for the stake of the earth,
Mm-hmm. And even Legendary's first Godzilla, 2014 Godzilla, even that one, Japan was like, he's too fat. You made Godzilla fat. He's not supposed to be fat.
I remember
and
that.
they made Shin Godzilla in response, and Shin Godzilla's great. Shin Godzilla's crazy. Yeah, it's wild. Shin Godzilla and Godzilla are like completely separate entities.
Okay.
They share almost nothing in common. But Shin Godzilla is awesome. He shows up and he's evolves into a stronger and stronger Godzilla until he's, wiping out Tokyo. And it implies that he would never stop evolving if he wasn't killed. How'd they kill him? I think they used the oxygen destroyer again.
That's awesome.
But, yeah. No, they're like, yeah, he never would stop. He would just become the ultimate universe destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
It's really crazy.
A giant dinosaur comes up and it's just going to wipe us all out now. We're worried about zombies. What if there's a Godzilla living in the core of the earth and he's finally just mad at us? But yeah, Joe, I agree. There is something about when America works on Godzilla. And the Legendary films are good. They are good. Obviously, apparently we made Godzilla a little too fat, but if America's going to do it, I guess that kind of makes sense that he would be a little bit chunkier. Why not? That seems like an error we would make. Those are good, but I go back to that 2000 Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. That movie's kind of boring as an adult now. Like, there is a little bit of like nostalgia worked in there from being a kid and knowing that this movie was coming out. It was definitely, for me, I was of the age where I was too young and I was not happy about it that I could not go see this Godzilla film. But then when I was a little bit older and finally saw it, I was like, oh, this movie's kind of boring. I just want Godzilla smacking stuff. I don't care about
that's
these people.
That's the funny thing is, like, for me, I had source material to base it off of because I had already seen some of the Japanese stuff by the time that came out. And so to me, even as a kid, it was boring because it is absolutely the antithesis. It's almost like America watched what Japan did and said, wait a minute, what we need to do, guys, is follow me, make a movie that is exactly the opposite of what Japan does with Godzilla. Guys, it'll make millions. You know what I mean? And it's almost like they took the IP and created something entirely different out of it, just based off of a giant lizard messing stuff up.
Yeah. And I will say, I think I like that Godzilla more than most people. Just because I think Sneaky Godzilla is terrifying. Like, what do you mean you can't find the massive dinosaur that is just in the city? Where is it? Why don't you know where it is?
That's true. How bad are you at your job that you cannot find a lizard that's as big as one of these buildings? Sneaky Godzilla.
Yeah, like how is he hiding from 3 helicopters? What are you guys doing? But it's a little suspenseful. I just like it. I like to watch it.
That's fine. Did either one of you watch the cartoon? I know that there was a cartoon out there in that time as well.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the cartoon, but I was on vacation one year, just chilling at the vacation house. And they had, I don't even know what TV service they had, but I was just looking through it, and they had the Godzilla cartoon. I was like, what? So I watched like 15 episodes. Just sat there all day. Great
vacation well spent.
Yeah. So I've seen some of it. But, not really intentionally, but it was good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as a kid watching the animated stuff was everything a kid would want it to be, because you see Godzilla and he's one of he's one of us and he's one of the good guys and, working alongside mankind and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that, it is what it is. It's very emblematic of the, an American attempt to make an animated Godzilla series. But that's not necessarily bad for what it is. You know what I mean? If you accept that it is what it is, kind of like watching those 2000 era, the American Godzilla. If you understand that it is something different than what you're used to, then that goes a long way of forgiving what it isn't and all of those kinds of things. Like, I look to something like Godzilla King of the Monsters, and it's just a battle royale of kaiju, just all kinds of nonsense going on and everything like that. And that to me is like, what if I tune into Godzilla, what do I want to see out of my Godzilla? I want to see monsters just going at it, big kaiju battles, all of that kind of stuff. It's what I tune in for. But if there's anything that something like Godzilla shows, it's that you can, in the right hand and honestly given enough time, have this same character represent different things to different people and be able to give different things in different storylines, different story beats, character beats, things like that to different people on different occasions.
This is a cool character. This is a very unique character, not just because it's giant kaiju smacking the mess out of each other, but because, as Joe was saying, it has gone through so many different variations and so many different eras and two completely different countries, even making media of this character, that there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you're here just for cheesy horror, well, good news for you. There's plenty of that here for Godzilla. And if you want something a little bit more serious, if you want, a little bit of refinement, pinkies up when you're watching kaiju smack each other, there's that too. That's kind of the legendary films. There's a little bit of something for everybody here when it comes to Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. And you just, scroll through the 36 movie catalog, get a quick synopsis of each one and just choose it. Just watch that one.
For sure. I don't know even where you would get a lot of these movies though. Is there should be a streaming service for just kaiju. That has to exist.
It might. I kind of doubt it. We should make that.
Yeah, I don't know how to obtain rights to films, but we should that should be a real thing. There's a streaming service for everything. There's one just for martial art films I've found, and it's super cheap, and I need it in my life. So there should be one for just kaiju films. But the real thing I want to ask you all today is, who are the kaiju monsters in your life? That's the second time today I've used that joke, and I love it. We're a Christian podcast. If you haven't gotten that from the title, we're a Christian podcast. So, but we're a geek podcast. We have hobbies outside of just reading our Bibles. I think that's something that Christians sometimes, some Christians, don't you think they don't have hobbies? Why is that?
I have no idea. I know a lot of those people.
I don't want to sound like I'm bashing my brothers and sisters in Christ, but there are some people who they don't have hobbies. Where does that come from?
Put away childish things is something that is so misquoted and so misused that there are a lot of people who have been taught that just liking something, just sitting here, we've come together, three people that otherwise probably wouldn't even know each other, come together to geek out about things that they're passionate about, things that they enjoy, all of that kind of stuff. And there have been an unfortunate number of people who have been taught that that's wrong, that idea of liking a cartoon or liking something like a giant monster movie and things like that isn't okay. And I think that it's a twofold issue where either you have people that just, if it's not God related, then it's not okay. That I don't have hobbies outside of going to youth group and going to Sunday service and going to Tuesday service and going to Thursday prayer night and all of those kinds of things. Or you have the people that are closeted about it, that just will not admit to the fact that they like these kinds of movies or that they like different things. They like different shows or different things like that. I was just in a like a study group with a group based out of Colorado that the pastor made a comment about watching Witcher, and there you could tell it made people uncomfortable that he said that he liked a show like that because, it's a pastor, he shouldn't be allowed to watch those kinds of things. That's not okay. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. There's a reason why each one of the episodes that you hear me talk about Witcher in the intro, be careful if you have kids. Don't watch it when a little kid is right there. You know what I mean? That's absolutely a show that you
furiously shaking his head no.
Yeah, exactly.
Witcher's not for kids.
Not at all. But just because it's not a kid, not for kids, doesn't mean that it's not for Christian adults. And I think that that's something that we need to get past, that we can watch things other than Disney and VeggieTales, and we're not committing a sin by doing so.
Yeah, what I've seen for a lot of people is that maybe they give up media, like superhero movies and comic books and kaiju films. They're not part of their life anymore. But what I oftentimes see is that they take up, there's always a void. Like, you have to have something to do to fill your time. And so murder mystery novels and sports, especially soccer. Why do Christians love soccer so much? And TJ shrugs. Like, I've always, or woodworking and hunting and fishing, and like, hey, let's not watch a movie about two giant lizards smacking each other. Instead, let's just go shoot a deer instead. Like, that's the logical jump that we make for some reason. And it fascinates me. Christians and hobbies fascinates me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that this is a conversation that takes a lot of different flavors. I think this takes a lot of different avenues and specifics that, you have to tote the line of not painting everything with a giant brush. You know what I mean? And I think for me, in the way that I approach something like this, there's a bit of a harder edge to the way that I say things about it, that I call these things out, because I've simply am the youngest Christian out of the group. I did not grow up indoctrinated into all of this, and you can't have hobbies and all of those kinds of things. And so, whenever you address these kinds of things, it's as problematic to say that a majority of Christians are like this as it is to say anybody who watched these things is in sin. And I think that when you take out anything that doesn't have a good Christian message to it and all of that naturally speaking, that gets replaced with, well, I have to do more things that are church centric. I have to do more things that are, I'm all for the people that are, this is family time. We do family activities. Sure. We don't, that's great that you're building memories and things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between building memories and specifically cutting things out because the Spirit told you to do that. Air quotes intended behind that. And again, this is why we need to have, for the Patreons, the video portion of this, because you have Italians like me who sit here directing traffic and trying to land an airplane in the middle of the conversation.
Big gesticulator over here.
Also, I do want to piggyback a little bit off of not the Italian hand moving part, but what you said just before that there's also a difference between tossing out a hobby and just not being into something. If you're a Christian and you're just not into the idea of giant dinosaurs smacking each other, like the three of us are going to kind of look at you weird. But in the grand scheme of things, if it's not for you, it's not for you. There's a difference there. I'm not an outdoorsy person. I might go for a walk in our local park every once in a while, but sleeping on the ground in a tent sounds like a horrible way to spend a weekend. And some people love it. Like, it's fine. What I'm getting at more is this idea of completely tossing out a hobby because you think it's evil. That being all said, is there any redemptive qualities that you can pull from Godzilla? I love this idea of being a defender of the earth. I really think that, not to sound like the woke tree hugger in the conversation, but I really think that as Christians, we do have a responsibility to take care of the earth for, it's part of our process of being good stewards of what's given to us, of we're going to take care of what we have for future generations' sake. Is there any other very, maybe weak things that you can pull from Godzilla for the Christian audience?
Don't nuke Japan, I think is a very strong Christian message.
Let's not kill everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff can be summed up as, nuclear war bad. There's the episode of the episode title. You know what I mean?
It's true.
But you can go into this whole thing of the redemption of Godzilla and the dark origin of Godzilla, but moving into being more of an anti-hero and defender of Earth and all of those kinds of things. There are, if you look hard enough, the 7 core story points, I think it is, that can be found in any story. They're just readapted into what to fit that particular version.
Yeah, agreed. Well, on that note, should we start wrapping things up? Before we head out of here, guys, do we have any recommendations for our audience?
Go watch Godzilla Earth. If you like the first one, watch the other 2. If you don't like the first one, watch it again. It'll grow on you.
Like it.
Yeah.
You will like it.
Yeah. You can retake the test. It's okay.
Joe, how about you?
I would say, go back, get a foundation for what Godzilla is, watch the original. And then if what you're looking for is more nuanced storytelling, maybe go the American route of the American Godzilla movies. If you're looking for something that's just kaijus slapping each other and all of that, I would say either go for things like Final Battle, things like Destroy All Monsters, things like that. But also you can go the modern legendary route of King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay. Yeah. And as for me, I would like to circle the wagons a bit here and remind everybody, hey, there's also this great show called Ultraman that you should definitely check out. Love Ultraman. Same kind of concept of, hey, let's not nuke Japan and let's take care of the earth and care about other people. By the way, he's a space superhero and he's going to fight the giant kaiju this time. Basically sums it up. And you can find a lot of those old 60s episodes on YouTube. A lot of them are for free just right there on YouTube. I think a lot of the shows, other spinoffs are on Crunchyroll, and Netflix has their own anime version. I have not watched it yet.
Oh, man. I was a big fan of the Netflix Ultraman series.
TJ, where can people find you if they want to keep up with you?
Well, you can find me right here, wherever you're listening to this. I'm on the show fairly often. You can go to systematicecology.org, click hosts, and find my name, TJ Blackwell, to read a little bit about me. I'm not sure what's there. So if somebody get to that, let me know. I really don't remember. You can also find me on the Whole Church podcast, where I record episodes with one of our other co-hosts, Joshua Knoll.
By the way, I do have to say, I don't remember what your bio says on Systematic Geekology, but when I went to the Whole Church website and scrolled down and saw your bio on there, that one made me giggle. So go read that bio instead. Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, the rest of the socials, anywhere that you can find podcasts, at either Buddy Walk with Jesus or Kingdom on the Road. I am live on Facebook 6 out of the 7 days a week. So look and you'll find me.
You can find my show, My Seminary Life, wherever you get your podcasts. All three of us are on that host list on Systematic Geekology. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all of your hosts. If you want to find any of our projects, you can also find the show on social media, My Seminary Life Pod. Go to our website, systematicgeekology.org, especially if you would like us to cover any of those films in depth. Maybe you're like, hey, tell me more about Mega Godzilla or Shin Godzilla, or why did Matthew Broderick think it was a good idea to make this movie? Well, we would like to figure that one out ourselves too. So let us know if you want some more Godzilla or Kaiju in your life. We could break down Mothra and the other ones for you. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
This was an Anazao Ministries podcast. If you enjoyed this show and would like to learn more about our network, be sure to check out the Anazao Ministries Podcast Network.